Hi, I'm Matthew Burchette, and BAM! This is the F-105 Thunderchief. In 1951, Republic Aviation was looking for a replacement for their F-84. And if you know anything about the F-84, and I'm sure we're probably going to pop up some B-roll for you here, the F-84 was like first generation fighter. And to go from the F-84 to that is nuts. So in 1955, that's when the F-105 made its first flight, and it was introduced to the Air Force in 1958. And the idea behind the F-105 was that it was going to be a high-speed, low-altitude penetration bomber that could carry a Mark 28 nuclear weapon inside. There's actually a bomb bay in that plane, which when you look at it is kind of nuts because it's such a thin fuselage. Luckily, we never needed the F-105 in its nuclear role, but we certainly needed it in Vietnam. After the Tonkin Gulf incident in 1965, we sent over a ton of F-105s, and they were one of our main bombers during Operation Rolling Thunder, the bombing campaign against North Vietnam. In fact, of the 833 Thuds built, 395 of them were shot down by SA-2s or anti-aircraft guns or were destroyed in accidents. That's a 40% loss rate of all the Thuds ever built. That's a lot of stats I'm throwing at you, but we've got an amazing guest today that you are gonna flip out over, an actual 105 pilot who flew in Vietnam. I told you guys we were gonna have a super awesome guest today, and I wasn't kidding. We are here with a real live Wild Weasel pilot and the chairman of our board here at Wings Over the Rockies, Charlie Johnson.
Matthew, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for being here. This is so cool. So give us a little bit of your history with the Thud. You have not flown this thing like just once or twice.
That is correct. I've got about 1,200 hours in it.
Wow.
Got about 600 in the D model, which is single seat, and
right.
600 in the Weasel.
So almost 99% of the people watching this video are going to know what a Wild Weasel mission was. Right. But for those that don't, can you just kind of give us the overview of what the Wild Weasel was doing over in Vietnam?
The Wild Weasel primarily was to suppress the surface air missiles. So our job was to fly ahead of the strike force and behind the strike force and get the SAMs to come up on us, the signals that look at us, and get them to shoot at us, so then we could go down and take the site out.
Now, were you voluntold or did you volunteer?
No, I volunteered, absolutely. I think 90% of the Weasels volunteered. One of the things that's interesting about the Weasel is when you go to Weasel school, the first 2 or 3 flights you have to fly to absolute perfection. Make every rule, every radio call, pay attention to every single restriction. And then you take your check ride and you have to really do well in it. And once they do that, they sit you down in class the next day and they say, now we're going to teach you how to break all the rules.
So you were telling me earlier before we started filming about this time you launched a standard arm. Can you go through that real quick?
Yeah, the AGM-78 is a standard arm. It weighed about, and again, the purists out there will know exactly, it weighed about 2,500 pounds, give or take a little bit. You'd launch it, it would drop off the wing, you'd roll inverted, it would light, and then you'd follow it down. It would mark the target for you. And I dropped one off the wing one time, and it blew up underneath me. So I'm sitting there looking at it, and it looked like somebody sandblasted the canopy. And
wow.
The airplane it didn't have any major damage at all.
So now, when you say you followed it down, you guys didn't just kind of do a standoff launch and then wait for it. I mean, you literally went down on the deck.
Yeah, so you could use the gun or whatever weapons you had with it on the site.
And those guys were surrounded by all sorts of AAA.
Oh yeah. Ground fire, little odds and ends.
What was the scariest part about that?
The scariest part, and again, it's interesting, you talk to any fighter pilot, they're going to give you a different impression, was going out to the airplane and starting it and taking off.
Really?
Just starting the mission. And once you got into it, you got into the rhythm, you hit the tanker, then everything became very routine and very normal. If you can call normal the war environment.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was really, with me, it was always just getting in the machine.
Do you want to just hang out in here?
Be glad to.
Okay.
I'd love that. I told you I'd pay to just sit here.
All right, so I know I said that we were gonna do a walk around, but I thought, I got the expert here. Let him do the talking. So we still got Charlie. This is gonna be awesome. Okay.
You're crazy.
I know. It just comes to me. So what is this yellow thing right here? I've heard kind of rumors about it, but.
Well, behind it, there's a radar reflector, the white piece, and that's just a fairing to keep from slowing down. But the reason it's there is the airplane has such a low radar profile coming at you that the ground control approach people couldn't see it to get a skin paint on the airplane, so that to be able to guide you down, they had to have the reflector there to reflect the radar signal back.
Wow, that's a kind of a stealthy plane for the 1950s.
Very early stealth, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, now the other thing I've been dying to ask is we've got our refueling probe out.
Right.
And I have heard that when Thud drivers came in for their very last mission in country, they would extend the probe as they taxied in, and that was kind of a...
That is exactly correct. Not only the last mission would you do it, but occasionally you'd go someplace and you wanted to express emotion to people, so you'd pop the probe.
I love it. So a D model would have been carrying 12,000 pounds of bombs and whatnot, and so you were almost at bingo fuel, literally as you were taking off. How long did it take you to take off and hit the tanker?
About 6 to 10 minutes from brake release.
Wow.
And you literally, as you were bingo fuel, and if you didn't get your tank, then you were pretty much emergency fuel and you just came back around and landed. Normally you'd hit the tanker right after takeoff and you'd hit another one out over eastern Laos before you went in North Vietnam. Then you'd kind of shuttle back and forth to the tanker like going to a gas station.
You were saying an 8-hour mission, you can't do that on one tank full.
11 refuelings.
11?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that's nuts. So Charlie, one of the things about the F-105 that makes it a little bit different from the F-4 was the 105 was the last of the Century series to be equipped from the get-go with an onboard gun.
Correct.
And that's an M61 20mm Gatling gun. That's a behemoth in there.
That is an extremely impressive weapon.
So how many rounds could you guys carry?
About 1,069 rounds.
Okay. And that
we
gives
did
you
little short bursts, half a second, but probably about 10 seconds worth. But
Oof.
You actually had a limitation of melt the barrels if you went that long. It's relatively rapid. If you got the SAM sight, you put the pipper on the target and fire a little short burst and pull off.
Whew.
Probably have 3 to 5 seconds on final.
Wow. So Charlie, this thing has been deployed out of the 105 for years, but I've always wanted to know exactly what it is. So what is it?
It's a ram air turbine. It is basically a hydraulic pump. And as you know, normally it's faired into the airplane, very seldom ever used. But if you're in any area, if you lose hydraulic pressure, but most especially if you get hit in a target area, you're going pretty fast, 500-600 knots. And you deploy the RAT, so it gives you flight controls to take advantage of your airspeed to get you out of that area, so you can continue to fly the airplane.
Did you guys ever have, or did you ever have to?
I never had to use one, no.
Did you ever get hit?
Nope.
Other than just the...
Other than having one of my own missiles explode under the airplane.
Wow, that's amazing.
No, I never got hit. You either got hit and didn't survive, or you didn't get hit.
That's amazing. Speaking of getting hit, let's go back to the wing and we'll talk about what the 105 did to hit back.
Super.
Awesome. So Charlie, what's amazing about this plane is A, it's so sleek and really actually long, 64 feet, but it's got this tiny little wing compared. I mean, it's only 34 feet wide, yet we could put 2 pylons on here that could carry a lot of ordnance. So what would these guys normally carry on a typical mission?
Depending on the mission, you could put a 450-gallon tank on here. You could put 4 Mark 117 750-pound bombs.
Okay.
In a Weasel version, you could put a standard arm, which weighs about 2,200 pounds.
Wow.
Outboard, you could go with an AGM-45, or you could do an AIM-9 for air-to-air.
Whoa.
And then you could carry, as you know, a bunch of Mark 117s on the center line.
Yeah, because right now we've got a 650-gallon fuel tank, but that's another 6 big old weapons under there.
Yep.
So when you think about it, this guy had on paper a 12,000-pound bomb load. which is 2.5 times more than what a B-17 carried in World War II. So you as a single pilot were carrying 2.5 times more than what a 10-person plane would.
Correct,
in
and
World
at
War
10
II.
times the speed.
And how much more power.
Yeah.
Wow. The more I learn about this plane, the more impressed I am. It's just amazing. So that's a lot of engine in there. And this was a Pratt & Whitney J75P 19W. And how much power could that thing kick out?
About 14,500 pounds at mill power, about 24,500 at afterburner. And for takeoff, you could add water and get up to 26,500 pounds of thrust.
So what was it like flying something with this much power?
Fun.
Oh, I bet.
Fantastic.
I bet.
It is an extremely smooth airplane. It's a Cadillac of airplanes. Flight controls are outstanding. It's just smooth as silk.
Which kind of leads me to my last question. Everybody wants to know where the name Thud came from.
I don't know if you know, and they built roughly 850 of them.
Mm-hmm.
When they were retired, there were about 300, give or take a few left. And so it had a very high attrition rate, but the thud came from the noise the airplane made when it hit the ground when it crashed.
That's what I've heard.
You know, other people would tell you it's an acronym for Thunderchief.
Let's stick with that. The J79.
J75.
Oh my
75.
gosh.
And I'm the one that doesn't remember numbers.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
For imparting your wisdom and just your been there, done that attitude. We couldn't pay you enough to do this. So beer is on me.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you guys for watching. As always, hit us up on YouTube or Facebook and we will answer your questions as best we can. And thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.